start 2014, and doesn't seem to be too bad a morning. In December, I went along to the Salvation Army here in Preston on a Saturday night. One Voice Community Choir were raising funds for the Soul Food Concert that the Salvation Army put on every year, I think for the first time last year, and this was the second year, and the entrance was by food, so you didn't buy a ticket, you actually gained entrance to the concert by going along with food that the Salvation Army was going to then be delivering across Christmas and New Year to families in need in Preston and South Ribble. And I went along on the Saturday evening to talk to Captain Alex Coduggan about the work of the Salvation Army here in Preston. Right, well, we're sat in the Salvation Army on a Saturday night in December, and in the hall it's One Voice Community Choir, and it's a soul food concert. In some ways, I mean, the music of One Voice Community Choir is beautiful, the jewel in the crown of Preston, and yet there's a poignant message this evening because people are coming in to see One Voice Community Choir, not paying for tickets but bringing food to help the needy over Christmas and New Year. And I sometimes wonder, from your point of view in the Salvation Army, how you feel about the fact that we're having in 2013, 2014 soon, to actually have to provide food for needy families, and the other role and the work of the Salvation Army in doing that.
It's nothing new, this work. The Salvation Army has been doing this work for 150 years, and I frankly believe that we'll be doing it for another 150 years quite easily. It's a shame, and William Booth, the founder of the Salvation Army, realised very, very rapidly in his ministry to the poor in the East End of London in the 1860s that actually there was a very, very real need to help men and women physically as well as spiritually. And so he took a very pragmatic approach that said, we are in a situation, there are people who need our help, let's do something about it. That hasn't changed. I think it is tragic that incidents of alcoholism and drug addiction in the United Kingdom is higher now than it ever was in the 1860s. And yet we think of Victorian, poverty as being an absolutely terrible thing. Well, it was, but we still experience, at sometimes, Victorian levels of poverty and worse, poverty of spirit as much as anything else. And so, if we think about some of the problems that our society are facing, we are horrified. We say, here we are in the 21st century Britain. Why is it that we can't sort of sort out the inequalities that seem to exist in life? I don't have an answer to that. That's a political thing, and I'm not a politician. But what I do know is that there is a problem. And so I want to put myself in the way of that problem and do something about it. And so that's the role of the Salvation Army, which is really a very pragmatic role that says there's a very deep need in people's lives. Part of that is a spiritual need, actually, I believe. But also, before you start talking about spiritual matters, you've got to look at the man. And William Booth, again, is famous for saying, you can't preach the gospel to a hungry man. And that's absolutely true. The reality is that what the Salvation Army does is it endeavours to speak to the whole man. But first of all, we have to help them with very, very real and practical needs. So I don't have any answers. I don't have the answer as to why it's happening. It's happening. That's for someone else to answer, perhaps, a politician. But what I do know is that because it's happening, there is a role that the Salvation Army has in all of this, which is to help alleviate some of the food poverty, some of the fuel poverty, some of the social isolation issues that are really prevalent in our society. In fact, I think one of the worst kinds of poverty in our community today is actually social isolation. People being so alone, so afraid, and so often so much on the margins of, society and community. And so what has happened here this evening has been amazing, because community has got out, come out to have fun and have pleasure and to listen to fantastic music, but at the same time do something useful by, saying, well, we're going to pay for that privilege of listening to this great music, but we're going to pay for it in food, and that food's going to go into the Salvation Army's food bank, and it's going to help feed hundreds of families this Christmas and into the new year. And I just thank God for that. It renews my faith in human nature, although I've never really lost it, to be honest, because I do believe in community, and it does bring home to me community still exists. There are people out there, politicians included, who will rail on about the broken community and the broken society. I don't believe it. Come here tonight. Look, see what's happened. That's not broken. That's really fixed and working. People who are in need are being helped by those who have more. And it's just wonderful.
And I think I met you on your first day in Preston, or I don't think you'd even found accommodation then. So in the time that you've been in Preston, did you have plans of what you wanted to achieve once you got here? What is it like for you working in Preston? And have you brought any plans to fruition that you had?
Well, when as an officer you are appointed to a new appointment, you have to kind of go on a voyage of discovery. It's no point coming in with all sorts of ideas, saying I'm going to do this, that or the other, or I'm going to turn the world upside down, because very often you find that it's your world that gets turned upside down. And so I came in with no assumptions, no previous kind of plans or agendas. I came here and was endeavouring to discover, really, and to find out. And it's taken some time to really, get to know the community a bit better and to discover what needs are available or what needs are there that are manifest. But I'm really quite pleased that my wife and myself, who are both we're both in joint command here, we've been able to look at the situation, and we've been able to make some changes to the food bank so that is now serving more people than ever before, whilst at the same time ensuring that the food is going to those people who are most in need in our community. We've also developed some other programs as well, particularly, and this is one thing that is very, very close to my heart, because I think that that one of the best ways you can help somebody get out of poverty is actually to help them find work. And in fact, William Booth, the founder of the Salvation Army, had exactly the same idea. In fact, the world's first labour exchange was opened by William Booth and the Salvation Army in the East End of London. And so what we've done here is we've opened up a job club. We've opened up not only a job club, but also we've extended our computer club work to include training people who are looking for work to be able to get the job skills that they need. We are now an accredited City and Guilds provider of training and IT courses to help people not only gain the skills to look for work, but also to have a qualification to put onto their CV that says, look, do you know, Mr. Employer, I can actually use computers. And that is really good. And so we've been able to help people find work. And that is one of the most satisfying things that we've been able to do. And that is literally the best way, actually, of getting people out of food poverty. The food bank sees to people who are in immediate crisis, and you need that. But really, my plan is to really try and focus the efforts of the Salvation Army in Preston on long-term efforts to seriously help people who are experiencing difficulty in their lives overcome those things in as many ways as possible.
And here in Preston, where you're situated, UCLan are your neighbours. What is the relationship like between the Salvation Army and the university in Preston?
I think that we actually have quite a good relationship. We have a very good number of students who come and volunteer their time and effort and their help here, and we are very, very appreciative of all the support that they give us. And we have a classic example of the help that UCLan give us is that they have allowed us to use their car parks this evening, because otherwise we could never have fitted everybody's cars into our little car park. So there is a good relationship. and I think that it will grow. It will get better. We've been working, doing quite a bit of work with quite a few students who come over from the media side. They come here. They do projects on looking at food banks or doing running stories on sort of current events and that kind of thing. So we try and help there. I think we have quite a good relationship. It's one that I want to see grow and develop.
And 2014 round the corner, what do you see the challenges being for the Salvation Army ahead? You personally, what would you like to see here in Preston?
I said when the universal credit system was being introduced, and first being sort of mooted, that I felt that we would probably be suffering from a tsunami of need heading our way. I've not been proved wrong. I think that there is an incredible amount of need, because what is happening is that with the natural desire that our politicians have to tighten things up and to exercise financial constraints, what's happening is that is at times, I believe, tipping a lot of fragile family budgets into crisis. So, and we're experiencing more and more of that. We're seeing more families than ever coming to us and being referred to us with quite complex needs. I think the needs are very complex. We're looking to try and extend the actual helping people into work. We want to do that. But we also want to look at other ways in which we can help to combat social isolation. And that means doing perhaps more with elderly folk, who are often very much, sort of on the edges really of society now. And, so we want to think about that. And there's a lot to do. Oh, there are so many challenges. I mean, the list actually is endless. But those are some of the things. Yeah.
And in a secular society, or whatever it appears to be a secular society, how important do you think religion is in people's lives?
Okay, a very good question, because I think that actually, yes, it is a secular society. I would agree with that. And I think that a lot of people, the majority of people perhaps, don't really want to engage with religion. And quite frankly, I totally agree with them, which is maybe a strange thing for me to say. But actually, what I do know that our society wants, needs, and perhaps is looking for is that big gaping hole in their lives that needs filling. It's a spiritual need. And I think that there is a desire for people to engage with faith, which is maybe a slightly different thing to religion, because religion, certainly organised and formalised religious structures, have not done themselves any favours in the last few decades, maybe the last few 100 years. And so I think that actually there is a lot of people out there who are interested in matters and issues of faith, but not interested in religion per se or church per se. That's a challenge. It's a challenge for Christian organisations like the Salvation Army to say, well, you know what, we still want to engage with people at every level of their life. Whether it's helping them through a difficult time with their food, crisis, or whether it's helping them through debt or drug addiction or alcoholism, or whether it's helping people feel that they're part of a community, or whether indeed also it's whether they want to engage in a spiritual way. So we want to be there for that. It's a challenge, but I'm up for it.
Lovely. And just one last question, then I must let you get back to the concert. How important in the future, and how important now in anywhere but here in Preston, do you think interfaith relationships are?
I think interfaith relationships are absolutely vital. I really do. Because I think for far too long, Christian churches and other faith groups have actually rowed their own boats in different directions. And actually, the faith community has so much to contribute to our society, so much to community. And in fact, the politicians themselves are looking to, the sort of the third sector, faith communities, voluntary groups, to be able to help society cohere. And so I think that it's absolutely absolutely vital. And it's something that I'm personally wanting to get a little bit more involved with in 2014 is, you know, in interfaith dialogue, but not just dialogue, because that's boring, really. You know, the talking bit is okay, but really there needs to be some kind of practical work. And, I mean, I'm delighted that we have some Muslim friends who come and they help in our soup kitchen, they help with our food parcels, and they support us in what we do, and we have a shared sense of we're doing